If you've been looking to increase the battery capacity for your power station, maybe for emergencies or some other reason, but you just can't stomach the idea of paying so much money for those expensive expansion batteries power station companies try to sell you, then stick around. I'll show you how you can expand your battery capacity for way less money. So this power station here is the Blue80 AC200 Max, which is a little bit older model. I don't think Blue80 sells this one anymore. I bought this back in 2022, and it has 2,048 watt hours of battery capacity. And I think it's about 2,400 or 2,200 watts of output power it can provide continuous. So I bought this for around $1,500, and I thought, okay, that's perfect for running some lights and refrigerator and things like that for maybe a day. And sure enough, it could run a refrigerator for just about a day, but I felt like that just wasn't enough. I did have some solar panels, and I thought, well, if it's cloudy, I need it to run longer than just one day. So I thought, not knowing what I'm about to show you, I thought this was my only option. So Blue80 sells this B230 expansion battery, which has the same battery capacity as the AC200 Max. So now I got 4,096 watt hours of battery capacity, and that helped a whole lot. But I paid $1,300 for this battery. I think it's less than that now, but at the time I paid $1,300, so that's very expensive. But since then, I've learned a way that I'm about to show you how I can use a battery like this humsienk battery here. It's a 12 volt, 320 amp hour, or 4,096 watt hours, the same as all of this, for way less money. Let me show you how that works. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all this in detail later, but let me just show you real quick how this works. This is the Blue80 AC200 Max solar input port, which is an old style connector. I don't think really anybody uses it anymore. I'll go into that later. But I just have a wire going from the battery to some various adapters, which I'll explain later. I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to move the camera over to the front and show you what it does first. So here I've got the camera put around front of the Blue80 AC200 Max power station, and now I'm going to plug in the cable I just showed you. And this value right here is the solar input of this power station. As you can see, we're starting to bring power in. But there is no solar panels hooked to it. So what's going on here? So basically solar panels provide power to the MPPT solar charge controller of the power station, and it's a range. It accepts a range. It says it usually on the side of the power station. I think this one accepts anywhere between 10 volts up to 150 volts. That's very important. I'll talk about that later. But this battery, this humsienk battery here, is a 12.8 nominal voltage battery, which means the range is about 10 volts when it's completely depleted, up to about 14.6, I think, when it's being charged and it's full. I think at rest it's around 13.6 or something. As a matter of fact, I can probably hit this and let's see what the voltage is. Yeah, so our voltage right now is at 13.4, and we're pulling in 133 watts from the battery. Now, just from experience, for example, if we were running a refrigerator, they turn on and off. They don't stay on continuously. I could probably power a refrigerator for 2 full days, and this Blue80 would stay at 65% probably, roughly, plus or minus a few, because this humsienk battery, can probably power a refrigerator for 2 full days. So 2 full days of powering the refrigerator, and this Blue80 still has 65% capacity approximately. So that's how you can do this without these expansion batteries that cost so much more than this humsienk battery did. So the first step to being able to do this is to locate your DC input or MPPT input port. As you can see here, it says DC input 10 to 145 volts. I said 150 earlier, but it's actually 145 volts voltage direct current. So that's what it is on this one. Now this is it's an old style connector. Unless you happen to have it, you probably won't have it on any new power stations, but it's an old style. I don't think they make this anymore on any power stations. I may be wrong, but that's what it is on this. So if you look at the cable that came with the unit, it comes with the aviation style on one end and an XT90 on the other. And that's just there's an XT90, XT60. This one heads up to 90 amps. So basically on this power station, this is what we're starting with. So let me just show you a few more examples. So here's the DC or MPPT input for the All Powers S2000, and it's using an XT60 connector, which I think you'll find on most power stations now. I think they seem to be moving to that. But anyway, it doesn't print the actual voltage input here on next to the connector. So if you see here a screenshot from the manual, it's actually 18 volts to 70 volts. So that battery may not work with this. We may have to bump it up, and I'll show you to do that, but we'll give it a try first, see if it works. Let's look at another example though. So here's another example. This is the Anker Solix C300X. And this particular unit has a double charging feature. You can actually charge with USB, or this is also an XT60 connector. And as you see printed there next to it, it works solar in 11 to 28 volts. Okay, so let's look at another example. So this is the Bluetti EB3A, and it's a little bit of an older unit as well. Let's take a look here. So the MPPT, or DC input for it, the voltage range is 12 to 28 volts. And it's also a completely different connector. It's called a DC 7909 barrel style input. So we'll go over that as well. But that's just a little bit connector, something you have to deal with. So these are just some examples of something you may have already or you may see when you get a power station. So let's start with the battery here and the wire that I had it connected to the Bluetti and charging it a while ago. So let's start up here at the battery. So I've chosen to go with what they call a terminal fuse. And this protects the wire right off the battery all the way to your power station. Now they do make other style fuses. Here's another example. It's an inline fuse. You can set it to different amps inside. It's really easy. They're good to work with as well. I just chose to go with the terminal fuse. And this wire here, one end we have what is called an XT60. Now that just is a 60 amp connector. And this is the female end. Let me get the wire here. This is the male end. And they just plug together. Makes a really good connection. And then there's a slightly larger version I showed earlier called, XT90. It's just bigger, but it's basically the same thing, but it's just bigger. And I have adapters that go from XT90 to XT60 as well. And another one you may see, common, is what they call Anderson. This is an Anderson style connector, the Anderson power pole. And they connect together. Of course, you would do that, but they connect together very easily. This is, I think, a 30 amp version, and there's a 45 amp version as well. And the last one I'll talk about is DC 7909. Now this is what you saw in the Bluetti EB3A just a minute ago. So that's the style connector it has on it. So what I've done here is went from XT60, bought this connector off Amazon, to DC 7909. So since I'm seeing more and more XT60s in the market, when I look at power stations now, I have standardized on XT60. So everything I'm going to buy is going to be XT60 if it's not connecting directly to the battery or power station. So by doing that, I think I'll have to have fewer connectors in the future. So some people like to standardize on Anderson like this, but I standardized on XT60. So if your power station has XT60, great, then that would work perfect for you. So let's charge the EB3A here. So first, if you remember, this has the DC 7909 port, and if you see here, it's 12 to 28 volts. So that's good. This battery is a 12 volt battery. So we're all good there. So now we need to hook up the cable. It's already connected to the battery, and we have the Anderson. And let's put the Anderson to DC 7909 adapter and plug it in. Let's turn this back on and watch the input here. Let me zoom in. Should kick in any minute. There we go. So we are charging at, looks like 104 watts at the moment. Yeah, so good. Yeah, so this is charging just fine, and that's the EB3A. Let's try another one. Okay, so here's the Anker Solix C300X. I currently am charging 2 batteries over here and my cell phone there on top, and we are only using 33 watts, as you can see there. So let's just look down here at this real quick. So if you remember, this, just to make sure we're safe to plug this in, let me unplug it temporarily, but it's 11 to 28 volts. So this 12 volt battery is perfectly safe to plug into this. And we have the XT60 connector here. Let me plug it in. And we should see the input watts coming right there. Turn it up just a little bit. So we're bringing in 92 watts and using only 13 at the moment. Something must have yeah, one of the batteries is fully charged. See over there. So we're actually, that humsienk battery is charging my phone, the Anker Solix, plus those 2 batteries that I use in my garage. So this is working well. So next up here is the All Powers S2000 I did a review on a couple years ago. So if you remember, the input range on this, the voltage input range for this XT60 port was, I believe it was 18 to 70, which this 12 volt battery seems like it's under voltage. So let's plug it in and see what happens first. I hear it kicking on, and it is charging. Okay, so it is charging. That's a little surprising. I thought it might not do it, but I do hear the fans kicking on and off, and the amount of charge is bouncing around a lot. So maybe that's because it's lower voltage. So let me show you some ways how we can actually increase the voltage to charge this unit, plus also that blue eddy. One way to increase the voltage is just to wire these multiple batteries together in series. And so two of these 12 volt batteries together would be 24 volt, four in series would be 48 volts. Or you could buy a 24 volt battery or a 48 volt battery, which humsienk makes those also. So, but if you don't want to do all that wiring, just buy a 24 volt battery if that's within the accepted voltage of your power station, or a 48 volt battery if that's within the accepted voltage of your power station. That would probably be the easiest way. But let me show you a different way you can increase the voltage. So here I have purchased what they call a step-up converter. This particular one is a 240 watt one that converts 12 volt input and outputs 24 volt for a max of 10 amps. Now it comes with these lever style connectors, which are great for connecting together different wire sizes. I think this 16 gauge and this is 12 gauge. And it comes with a fuse as well. It's 35 amp fuse in there. Now I put these wires and XT60 connectors on the end myself. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so I have the step-up converter here. I've got it plugged into the battery already. I'm going to connect it here to this AC200 Max. So let's plug in the adapter here and zoom in to the screen, and you should see that top value right there in the middle. Yeah, it jumped to 197, now to 236. So we've effectively doubled how fast we can charge this unit by using that step-up converter. Before I wrap up, I wanted to make sure I mentioned something about safety. When I was choosing these wires and adapters, I looked for the largest wires I could possibly find for those adapters, and I selected those. The largest I could find in most cases was 10 gauge wire, which is rated for around 30 amps. That is why I chose the 30 amp terminal fuse here. In some cases though, I had to select a 12 gauge wire, which I believe is rated for around 20 amps. And that was because I just could not find a 10 gauge wire in those cases. But in the video, the largest amount of watts I did draw from the battery was just under 240 watts, which was about 20 amps, or a little under 20 amps coming out of the battery. But the message I want to deliver to you is that you need to do your own research, choose the right fusing, the right wires, right size wires, right adapters for your situation and the power station that you have. Make sure you're not putting too many amps through those wires or connectors. And you don't want to set up something like this for the very first time, plug it in, and then go out for dinner. You need to monitor these things closely and check for heat. You definitely do not want to start a fire. These step-up converters wires can get hot. It's normal for those to get pretty warm, but not too hot. I never use those without close monitoring. Well, as you saw, you can easily increase the battery capacity of your power station without spending your hard-earned money on those expensive expansion batteries. Now, those expansion batteries do come with some nice features though. You can actually see the state of charge of the expansion battery right on the screen of the power station, and as well on the mobile app. And when you charge your power station, it charges the expansion battery along with its internal battery. When using this humsienk battery, about the best you could do is track the state of charge using their humsienk mobile app. But that's about it. Your power station can't charge this battery back like it can its own expansion battery. So you'll need to find your own way to charge this battery back. One way would be to purchase a dedicated 12 volt lithium iron phosphate battery charger. That'd be one way. But in the end, you may decide that the features of the expansion battery is actually worth the cost. So what about price? So at the time of filming this, you can get this humsienk battery for $360, which has double the capacity of the Blue Eddy expansion battery that I paid for at 27% of the cost that I paid for it. So, but I'll leave links down in the description to this battery, as well as all the connectors and cables I have here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and always, thanks for watching.